Welcome to Daily Truths with Dave Ahlman.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Daily Truths. Today, I want to talk about the subject of hospitality. I know that's not a subject we hear very often, but I remember when I was at St. John's College in Winfield, Kansas in the late 70s, and I was in the concert choir, and we traveled all over the Midwest and sang at churches, but in the evenings, we'd stay at people's homes. It was awesome. I got to know some of these great Midwest folks and their gift of hospitality, and we'd stay up till all hours of the night, just visiting, getting to know each other, them getting to know us. It was awesome. And I'll never forget how much I appreciated the hospitality that these people showed us. Well, today we talk about the subject of hospitality. Remember, we're in the book of Matthew, chapter 10, and Jesus has sent his disciples out saying, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons, and raise the dead. And this is especially what they did after Jesus ascended up into heaven. And so he said this in verse 11, and whatever town or village you enter, find who is worthy in it and stay there until you depart. What did Jesus mean by that when he said, find out who is worthy? He meant those who are believers. And as a result of being believers, they were very open and receptive to the apostles and disciples staying there. And then to make sure that they didn't offend those who were hosting them, Jesus said, and don't look for a better place. Don't look for somebody who has more money and maybe more food and more lavish surroundings. When you make a decision to stay with someone or they invite you to stay with them, stay there until you depart that town. So Jesus was talking about the disciples traveling around from town to village, sharing the gospel and going to people's homes who believed in Jesus. And those people were able then to give hospitality. Now, why did Jesus tell them this? Well, part of the reason was, number one, Christianity at that time, and neither today as well, it was all about money, was all about wealth. Jesus didn't want his disciples to get rich. And so he said, when you go to a town or village, stay with folks. You're not there to make money. And we talked about that yesterday, You're not there to make money. You're there to share the gospel. And so Christianity was not about wealth. Secondly, this was a way for God's people to be involved in helping the apostles. And if the apostles stayed in a town or village, the people in that village were much more receptive and eager to hear the gospel, right? And thirdly, this entrusted the disciples to depend on God's power and less on their provision. So all of these reasons and so much more is why Jesus said, stay with people when you go into towns and villages and don't depart, stay there until you leave that town and go on to the next village. So Jesus was talking about hospitality. And when they go to these towns, they'd stay with folks who were hospitable and receptive to the message. Now today, why aren't we as hospitable as maybe our culture was 30, 40, 50 years ago? Why is that? Well, there's three reasons. Number one, I think we're too busy. We involve ourselves in so many different things. And as a result of that, we kind of become isolated from our neighbors. We're too busy, right? Secondly, we're very little trusting. We don't trust a lot of people, right? And so as a result of that, we don't get to know our neighbors maybe like we should, because simply it's so easy for us to be vulnerable and for people to take advantage of us. And so we're less trusting, right? And thirdly, we're more glued to screens than we ever have been. I mean, with the advent of the television in the mid-1950s, people have become more and more involved in screens. And of course, now we have computers and now we have cell phones and iPhones and all that. People are more glued to screens. So these three reasons prohibit us from being as hospitable as people were 40, 50 years ago, right? We're too busy. We're not as trusting, and we're glued to screens. And so my challenge for you today is, as a follower of Jesus, how hospitable are you to other people around you? There was a book years ago by Dave Runyon called Rediscovering the Art of Neighboring. And in that book, he said we need to literally start to love our literal neighbors. And so he identified kind of a map of how to do that. And he had 3 homes across the street. He asked, do you know their names? Do you know their kids' names? Have you gotten to know them? The 2 people next door, if you're in the middle of the block and not on a corner, do you know who's on each side of you, and the three folks that live behind you, the catty corner ones and the ones directly behind you. Do you know them? Do you know their names? And his challenge was basically, if we do that, then we get to know our neighbors, we can build a relationship. And as they start to ask questions and we start to get to know them, we build trust. And somewhere along the way, they might be receptive to hearing about Jesus as we get to know them, right? And so today we've talked about hospitality. I've got to ask you the question, how hospitable are you? I pray that as you hear this message, and it's challenging me to be more hospitable, right? As you hear this message and it's challenging you to be more hospitable, that we put away some things that are occupying our time, we become less busy, and we allow ourselves to trust other people, especially in our neighborhood, and to build relationships and open our homes to people that we know, to become more and more hospitable and less selfish. That's the challenge today. How hospitable are you? And the early church people said, hey, we believe in Jesus. Disciples, come and stay with us. We believe in Jesus too. May that empower us, freed by the gospel, empowered by the Spirit, to be hospitable to those around us. And that is today's Daily Truth. Have a great day in Jesus Christ.
Thank you for tuning in to Daily Truths with Dave Ahlman. If this ministry is blessing you, please consider supporting us by sharing this channel with a friend. You can also like, comment, subscribe, or leave a review. This helps us tremendously. Come back tomorrow for your next Daily Truth.